Welcome to this episode of the Right People, Right Places podcast. We're actually on location here at the Chicago Build Expo. We're really excited. We're going to be doing podcast episodes here. Excited for my audience to be hearing from some of the best and brightest out there that are doing big things in the construction and design space. And I have the absolute pleasure this morning to kick off our podcast, Joaquin Manriquez here with us, and we're going to be talking about some exciting stuff. Just in the form of introduction, I wanted to provide a little bit of background on him. Joaquin specializes in helping retail landlords, from institutional investors and office REITs to local owners and merchant developers, execute their vision and asset strategy. So over the last decade, he's played a key role in shaping the retail landscape across Chicago and the greater Midwest, guiding clients through some of the most competitive and complex deal environments in commercial real estate. He serves as the Vice President of Retail Advisory at JLL. So we're very excited to have him on. Thank you for being on, Joaquin.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to be talking about the trust factor, building long-term success through creative deal making. And here at Rapido Talent, we are a talent strategy company. We work with companies like JLL to go ahead and retain, recruit, and attract the best and the brightest. And making deals is what we do. And making deals is what Joaquin knows very well. And there's a lot of great experience and insights that he's going to drop for us today. But before we get into all of that, Joaquin, why don't you start with sharing with us a little bit about your background and story in terms of how you started cut your teeth. I know we talked about that a little bit here before we jumped in, but would love for our audience to get to know you a little bit more here.
Yeah, so my name is Joaquin Manriquez. I've worked in commercial real estate now for almost 11 years. I graduated in 2012 from IU. I did not study anything pertaining to construction or design or real estate whatsoever. Actually, I studied Middle Eastern studies and sociology. So my intention was to go into an entirely different career path. We don't have to go into that. That did not pan out. And I think just like so many real estate or commercial real estate relationships begin, my story kind of starts with one of my friends from grade school who also went to IU. So we would drive back home to Glenview together because she grew up in the same town that I did. And her older sister was in brokerage. So she was doing office leasing at a company called Newmark, major firm. She actually tried to get me to leave my first job out of college to go and join her in the office universe. But at the time, if you can believe it, they were paying me less than the job offered, less than the salary I was currently making, which was $28,000. So they were offering me $10 an hour, and I'd just gotten a bump to 28 after doing this other job for 8 months.
So this is where the creative deal making came, right? There we go.
But it wasn't the right opportunity. And then she actually left JLL to go to Newmark. She left Newmark to go to JLL and start the retail leasing platform with my current boss and basically best friend, Peter Caruso. So she knew that I was eager to leave this other company. I'd been there for 2.5 years. It was going nowhere, but it taught me a tremendous amount. I'm very grateful for those 2.5 years there. And that's how I started. So I started as a junior broker on a team of 5 brokers. We were a new team, so we didn't have products. So it's important to distinguish. So I work on the landlord side, the investor side. So my job is to go and find tenants to fill vacancies, specifically retail tenants for retail vacancy.
Gotcha.
As compared to office or industrial or hotels or multifamily. So that's our specific niche. And JLO is a massive company, so we're highly departmentalized, very specific in our focus. So I started doing that. I was as the youngest broker with no experience. Everybody else had 10 years plus. So I was the runt of the litter. So it was a very difficult build because we were building a portfolio from scratch, which, again, if you talk about relationship building, the way to court new business is not to just say hey, I want the best thing. I want to lease everything that you have on Michigan Avenue.
Yeah, right.
You don't get to start that way, especially as a younger team.
Yep.
So our only choice was to basically approach our now clients and ask them, what is not getting enough attention? What are the biggest headaches in your portfolio?
Yes.
Where do you feel like you're being underserved, or your brokerage team may not be as focused on those assets as they should be because they're challenging, because they're difficult, because they're in tertiary markets. So that's how we started. We started taking on basically all the underserved parts of our client's portfolio, use that as a launching point to build a relationship, to prove ourselves, to demonstrate that we could get creative in ways that other groups maybe had not been. Because the world of retail, as most major investors see it, is actually very small. There's like 150 tenants who are the only ones who are actively transacting on the national side. These are named
in terms of like large companies.
yeah,
Like that are
national credit-worthy
right.
with an asterisk retailers that you or I know and do most of our shopping at. The actual world of retail is obviously much larger. It's just the tenants have less sophistication in terms of navigating a very unnecessarily complex and convoluted process that is signing a commercial lease. Like to sign an apartment lease, you have to give like, you need my credit score, I need employment history. Like you think that's difficult. Wait till they put you through the ringer on a commercial retail lease. So that's how we started. It took basically all of 5 years to build a business that I felt like was actually compelling, where I felt, hey, the transaction volumes are going in the direction that I want. I could actually turn this into a career. And I felt like I had turned a corner, and then pandemic. And the pandemic was ruthless on retail because there were mandated shutdowns. Health clubs couldn't operate. Restaurants had to operate at reduced capacity. Dentist's office are putting in these HIPAA filters just to give their, my dentist had to do that just to give their customers, their clients, their guests, their patients some degree of comfort around, here's this novel illness that nobody knows, it's transmitted in the air. So that basically destroyed my pipeline for another 1.5 years. So it's been another 5-year incremental rebuild. But it's been very interesting for that reason, because the people who do who do this role in Chicago are small. It's also like a couple hundred brokers who do most of the retail deals that you are familiar with. And then there's a much wider universe of people who will do one-off retail deals. But the people who do this, who specialize in this business as a career, very small.
Totally. And I could totally relate with that. I mean, riches are in the niches, right? But you also need to be able to build relationship. And I think that's even in what you were sharing there as you're talking about your story and how you got into things. One of the things that stood out to me was you talked about solving a problem. You went to those brokers, or you went to those tenants and tried to figure out, okay, where's the pain? You know what I mean? And that's what business is all about. It's and a lot of times that's not the glamorous stuff, right? That's not the sexy stuff, but it's the stuff that customers need to figure out. You know what I mean? And I love that, even in you cutting your teeth and getting started in the industry, you were trying to figure out where the pain point was to really address the issue and solve the problem. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's just amazing. You talked about this idea of building long-term relationships. In commercial real estate, relationships often I'll ask individual deals. Again, you mentioned this already. What are the key ingredients for building those enduring client relationships? If you could kind of walk us through some of that.
Yeah, so I think there's kind of two things to keep an eye on. One of which is it's important to consider the life cycle of our deals, because a new listing, so a new property, there's a vacancy, we're engaged to go and find a tenant on the landlord's behalf. And the other side of our business that we partner with and work with are the brokers who represent tenants, the occupiers. So let's say you want to start a podcasting studio, you want to lease some retail space in order to do so. You need 1,000 square feet, you want it somewhere centrally located. You hire a broker you don't hire them because you don't pay them out of pocket.
Sure.
Because they're paid based off the transaction. But you engage somebody, they go and start finding you sites. On my side of it, I have a vacancy and I'm trying to find somebody to fill that vacancy. So the life cycle of these deals, I may take on a new listing. It may take me 6 to 9 months just to find the right prospect for it. And then afterwards, working the deal itself is probably 9 to 12 months. It takes.
So there's a long This is a long cycle.
It's a very, dude, I just got paid on a deal that I did 4 years ago, a daycare deal.
No.
I finally got the fee for that. So because the duration of the transaction is so long, and even after a lease is signed, there's still hand holding and other like advisory services that are required throughout that. So getting the lease signed, as hard as it is often just the first step of a bunch of other headaches and steps. So because the relationships by necessity have to last so long, I think it's important to have a good rapport and to think about spending 18 to 24 to 36 months on a particular deal. It would be a shame if all the rapport and trust and goodwill and this is goodwill with my client, it's goodwill with my counterpart who's representing the tenant, and with that tenant themselves. It's important it would be a shame if all of that built up rapport was lost on a solitary transaction.
Equity, yeah.
Exactly. So you build up all that equity and then you only use it for one deal. I think at the core of our business, whenever you finish a transaction, the first question when you're talking to your broker, whoever your counterparty is, should be, how can we do more together? Because I believe firmly in everybody should have a good taste in their mouth at the end of the deal. It shouldn't feel like, I hated that guy, I can't wait to never do a deal with that person or that broker ever again. And that does happen.
Yes.
But it would be a shame if it did, because you just spent all that time building up this equity and now it's vacated as soon as the deal is over. So first of all, most of our deals are 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And it's not very common that a tenant completes that lease term. Their business model may be ill-suited to some novel arrival. You think about this as Amazon.
Yes, yes.
So when I first got into the business was really like the advent of the true disruption that Amazon represented to brick and mortar retail. So there was a lot of business. It was kind of it signified the end of a business cycle, essentially, where it's much more cost effective and more convenient for consumers to just buy directly from this major online platform, as opposed to driving to the store. Like, I don't want to go and get diapers every other day. Just ship me a bunch of them. I have enough, like my hands are full with 4 children and a 5th one on the way. So there's a lot of flat-footed retailers who are trying to respond to this. So because those deals end, that means I might find myself releasing a space in a few years. So it's important to, again, retain good relationship and trust with your client. I think the easiest way to do that is I'm in a service industry.
Yep.
And I'm in a service industry that serves the service industry that is retail.
Right.
And I also don't want my client to be the only one who had a good experience with me. I want the broker that I worked with, I want the tenant that I worked with to remember our experience fondly.
Yes.
And sometimes those things come back full circle. I had a deal in 2021, which was the most bizarre deal ever. It was a pandemic. I was representing an office landlord on a retail vacancy that they had in River North. Small space, 1,600 square feet, used to be a fast casual restaurant, so it had a lot of existing conditions. So basically, it was improved in a way that would benefit to some other cafe or food and beverage concept. The problem was nobody could predict the future of rents. Turns out rents have stayed mostly stable during that time. They've gone up a little bit, but mostly they're flat. But everybody was averse to doing long-term deals. The national tenants and occupiers that would have normally been the tenant that we find for that space had all basically said, we have no idea what's going to happen with the pandemic. We're not signing deals right now. And my client really wanted to get a lease done. So I actually got a phone call from a lady from Kazakhstan, Simbat.
Wow.
So Simbat calls me at like 6:30 p.m. And I'm at the office. I'm like trying to send the last email. I've been there for like, 10 hours and my brain is fried. Nothing's happening. The market is just in the toilet. And Simbat calls me and she's speaking pretty labored English. And she's like, I have to see the space. It's perfect for me. We have this coffee concept out of Kazakhstan that we're licensing. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So we schedule a tour and I'm super grateful that we did, which goes back to how do you build a relationship?
Absolutely.
you build relationships by being humble and by having an interest in what people are doing. And retail is the best business to be in if you are curious.
Totally. Even coming in person together, I think there's, we're in a digital age, but again, those things carry so much value,
I'm in an anti-digital age, dude. I have no social media like outside of
Good
the
for you.
LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm very, and I'm also, my business is brick and mortar retail. It behooves me to invest in the business that feeds me. So
Yes.
so I go and I meet Simbad at the space. She's like, the space is perfect. We're kind of struggling through because there's a lot of esoteric commercial real estate concepts that are not the easiest to explain. And if it's somebody who's new to it, it's just, you can kind of just see them glaze over because I'm trying to tell them all the things that will benefit them throughout the process. So like, you have to be informed so you know what you're getting into. So after that, everything that could go wrong went wrong on this deal. And it's dragging on like 6-7 months. She can't use the contractors that she's familiar with because it's a union building, which is its own ball of wax. And my landlord does not want to basically put a 500,000 square foot building at risk of a union protest because the 1,600 square foot coffee cafe build out, which was like $100,000. They don't want to, it's just literally not worth the hassle. It's going to aggravate their existing tenants and they don't like,
Right.
So had to walk her through identifying a contractor. By the way, she had a broker. She had 2 brokers over the course of the deal. She fired the first one and he was frustrated and he would call me to like complain about her. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to hear this. Just, you're here to help get the deal done. If you're not going to contribute, then I'll just do it myself.
Yes.
So she fires him halfway through and engages another broker who's a residential broker. And there's just different skill sets. Like I would not buy my own house. I would much rather engage somebody who's doing that for a living who specializes in that. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what inspections I need. Is it okay? Like it looks fine. I'll deal with it afterwards. So 2 brokers, neither of which was particularly in a position to help. And I was just very, very in awe of her. She was about my age. She was 31 at the time. I was 31 at the time. I think her husband was a year or 2 older. They had immigrated from Kazakhstan a year prior. So by the time the deal got done, they had been here for 2 years. They had some business interests in Kazakhstan, but again, I'm dealing with my landlord. We're trying to figure out how do we secure this lease? Like what is the deposit? What is the guarantee? Which is complicated because if your assets are in another country, like especially for a deal of this size, which is relatively.
Yes.
But I remember speaking to her at like 7:30 at night, like 10 months into the deal. I'm like, the deal is at the breaking point. And my client's like, why are we even wasting our time? I'm like, trust me, this lady and her husband will be in the store, hands-on every step of the way, because there's this concept, Tari Coffee. If you get a chance, you should go check it out.
Yeah.
Beautiful cafe. They did a beautiful job and they serve a really great product, but it was serving as this cultural touchstone for basically Kazakh people because all the world had known as Borat,
Right.
which is a terrible caricature of any culture.
Of course.
And so there's so much pride imbued in everything that they were doing. And this was like small deal. The way we solved the risk problem was just by the landlord didn't put much into the deal. The tenant was taking on the majority of the risk, which reduced our need to complicate the transaction further. So this whole process was not very lucrative for any of the parties involved, except for hopefully Simba. But it was the best deal I think I've ever done in my career. And then, so that was 2021. It's been going excellently.
Yep.
And she called me in April of this year and she's like, we're ready for New York. Do you know anybody in New York? And I'm like, yeah, I know a guy out in New York. So it was, that's again, and she and I were on opposite sides of the transaction, but because I had so much respect for her and what she was doing, it was basically the American dream.
Yeah.
Come here with my husband, a few dollars in our pocket, build this beautiful business, and use that to basically enhance a cultural understanding of a place that none of us has ever been
Totally.
or may never go, but now there's a place where you can experience a little microcosm of that.
Amazing.
So yeah, she's looking at New York now, and those little moments, those opportunities are everywhere, but it goes back to being humble.
Yep.
I'd been doing this at that point for 6 years, and there's a lot of, in my business, there's a lot of, I don't want to waste my time. I don't waste my time anymore. but I think that's like there's a cynicism there that probably inhibits
Totally.
deal making, which benefits all of us. The more retail deals get done, the better it is for my business.
Totally. I love that. I love that. There's so much in what you just shared. I think um, the mentality of humility actually expressing itself in service, um, and I think being able to engage in that long process when you make it about the relationship. I mean, and what you're doing with these long sales cycles, it's like you have to invest in the relationship. You have to take time to get to know these people. And it's a lot like recruiting, actually. You'd probably be a really great recruiter because you're dealing with multiple parties, you're dealing with companies, you're dealing, that's the operating reality I come from. But as I'm hearing what you're saying, you do kind of have to check your ego and kind of check it at the door and just be like, you know what? It's not about me. It's about who I'm serving and what are they trying to solve? What are they trying to do? And I love that story. I think it touches on so many values there that are great. And yeah, great job persevering and getting through on the other side of it. And it sounds like there's a continuing relationship there.
Well, she was, again, I was in awe of this self-possessed businesswoman who had a singular vision and a clarity in that vision, which I thought was astounding. But yeah, like I said, there's all these little moments in retail that are like that, because retail is this big melting pot.
Yep.
If you decide, hey, my mother's recipe for empanadas or bolognese or whatever it may be,
Well, you making me hungry.
that's inspiring me to start a restaurant. You can do that.
Yes.
Like, it's not as though, okay, I need a big business plan. I need a 5-10 year, like, here's how I'm going to build this whole enterprise. Retail is very, very democratic in the sense that anybody who can get a loan or who has the funds or who has an idea can generally realize that idea, for better or worse. So you meet people from all walks of life, and ego is an important thing because there are moments when ego can be a tool,
Right.
which is if I'm detecting on my counterparty side that there's some bullshit going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when the ego comes on. It's like, dude, don't mess with me. We're here to advance the transaction. So long as all the parties are willing to transact, that's what we're here to do.
Right.
I don't need gamesmanship. I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
What I'm
Let's be
interested in.
straightforward.
Yes. And that goes back to trust.
Yeah.
So if people, because any sort of brokerage business, I'm sure it's just like recruiting.
Yeah.
It's branding. It's what do people know about you? What is other, again, my business is small, a couple hundred people. So everybody's transacted with everybody at a certain point in time. We get together a lot, we network. So everybody's talking, and things like gossip are widespread.
Yeah.
So the only way to really insulate yourself from that is just to be a person of your word.
Yes.
To do the things that you say you're going to do, to follow up, to be diligent, and to follow through. Really.
Yes.
And that's much easier if I'm not playing games or I lied and I told them there were 3 other offers. I'm like, no, it's this one deal.
Yep.
We're interested in getting this deal done, but the deal has to make sense for all parties. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
One of my mentors told me something really great. It's like, if the deal's fair, it'll get done. And if it's not, probably won't. Sometimes they still get done, but
I love that.
I'm interested in repeatability and sustainability. And when the terms are right for both parties, there's an opportunity for that. Whereas if I'm trying to gouge you and I want every last dollar that you can pay, and I know your business plan can't support it, that's bad business. It's bad for me because, well, there are brokers who would look at that as good and bad. It's like, well, if you fail in 3 years, I already got my fee.
Totally.
And then I'll release it and I'll get the fee again. But I don't like that. It's bad.
It's bad business. Absolutely.
Bad for the economy.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. I think in just kind of closing this conversation, you've just shared so many great insights, I think, in terms of building relationship, working with multiple parties, checking ego at the door, but realizing that you need that. But as long as relationship is the thrust, sometimes you gotta kind of have to lead with the ego to deal with some big personalities, right? So I appreciate what you said there. But just in closing here, what's one lesson about trust or relationships that has defined your career and something you wish more people in this business understood? Maybe it's already what you shared, but I don't know if there's anything else that comes to mind.
play the long con. The long con is play the long game.
Yeah.
When I was 4 years in, so I started on a draw, which is an advance against future commissions, but that draw is a loan. It's a non-recourse loan that I owed back to the company. So I was 3 years in, and I owed my employer $250,000 in fees because they had advanced me, and took a long time to build a business. And at the time, I remember there was a particular deal that would have solved a lot of that financial issue for me. It was a bad deal. And this is where the long con comes into it. It's short-sighted. Again, if you're a broker or you're in a service business, it's very short-sighted to do the thing that you know will benefit you, as opposed to your client. That fee would have cleared my draw. Probably would have bought a nice watch, done some things, but it was a bad deal, and I knew it in my heart.
Yep.
And when you're in that position, honesty, integrity are the only ways to do this, because again, it's a small world that's shrinking rapidly.
Comes back around.
You cannot escape the mistakes that you make sometimes. And I was more interested in preserving the relationship and, again, continuing to build my own brand as far as what do I stand for? What can people expect from me when they work with me? And I just want them to know that their interests are my interests.
Totally.
And if those interests are aligned, then it simplifies everything. It makes your life way easier.
Totally.
And
wow.
you have to just accept that it's a service business, that it's not my dollars at risk. I'm just here. I'm the bumpers on the bowling lane.
Yeah, right.
Like, the ball needs to meet the pins. I'm just here to keep that in the lane. And the lane is market. That's all it is. If the deal falls in line with market, then again, it's probably fair, probably gets done. But that's it.
Amazing. Joaquin,
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing what you've shared. I think there's so much, not only within your space that people can glean from, but I think it really transfers into so many areas. I know even from a recruiting perspective, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm like, amazing. So I know a lot of my clients and customers will benefit from it, and our audience of executive leaders, HR leaders are going to really love this. I'm excited for this episode to drop. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on LinkedIn, and feel free to hit that subscribe button for more episodes like this, where you get to learn the tricks of the trade, the deals, how they go down, and the psychology behind that. So until next time.